Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. Sometimes when I'm talking to people about my story, they want to know what I have been doing. If I tell them that for quite a long time I was entirely on the Advaita approach, Atma Vichara, self-inquiry. Who am I? I am. And after that, there was a shift that I included more the yogic aspect. That didn't mean that I started to do a lot of yoga exercises, but simply that I included the awareness of the breath, and through the breath, the awareness of the prana, the energy of life. And then sometimes people say, but oh my God, you have come down. You were on the high path and then you have come down. And previous, in my learned ignorance, I may have said similar things. But of course, this is nonsense. It doesn't matter how we are approaching reality. The only factor that really matters is our own sincerity. There is no such thing like a highest approach, and all the other ways to go about it, they are below that. It's for the babies who are not yet ready. One Ramana devotee told me once, but Ramana Bhagavan, he said that at the end everybody has to come to Atma Vichara. Yes. But what he meant, everybody has to come back to that awareness of being alive. That awareness of love, of being connected in the present, in that timelessness. Sooner or later, everybody has to come to that. But it's not. I'm very sure that Ramana Maharshi did not mean everybody has to start now to meditate. Who am I? Who am I? He himself, he gave different meditations. He gave mantras. He asked people to take the help of pranayamas. He asked people to do Atma Vichara, self-inquiry. If it didn't work, he asked them to watch the breath. If he gave a mantra and the person couldn't do the mantra, then he asked them to do something else. If he gave the Atma Vichara practice, it didn't work, he said, okay, try another thing. No matter what we are doing, if we are sincere, it somehow connects us with that current of conscious life, of conscious love. And that which comes most naturally to one, that's the best way to go about it. There is no higher approach or lower approach. Whether our approach is high or not depends our sincerity, how we are going about it. Somehow or other, we have to find a way to counteract that habit to be always completely attached to our thoughts, emotions, perceptions, to the story, to the day-to-day life, without being aware of that base, that ground that makes the experience possible. Somehow or other, we have to find a way to detach from that and bring the attention back. Whether we are doing it through vichara or through yoga or through bhakti. Anyway, that helps us to do so, that is perfectly fine. A combination of different ways to go about is perfectly fine. It's better not to try one thing a bit and then try another thing a bit and then try another thing a bit, but have a basic approach that comes naturally, and then we can still include other aspects. Maybe eventually certain aspects we are not more including in our practice. They have been helpful and maybe not more necessary. Maybe new aspects we are including, but still there is that basic approach that is helpful if we have that. But never listen to anyone who says that your approach is not the highest, it's not the best, you should do something else. If it rings a bell, if you feel like opening up to that, okay, but not simply because somebody said so or because they quote a great master who supposedly has said so. I remember having read in about the wife of Sri Ramakrishna. She became a great Mahatma herself. Ramakrishna had already quit his body quite some time ago, and she became then the person people went to see. And one disciple of Ramakrishna came to her and said, "Oh, that man has told me with mantra japa, you never can get enlightened." And Charada Devi simply said, "It's obvious that man is not enlightened. Otherwise, he would know that there have been so many great Mahatmas in the Indian tradition that have gone all the way by doing nothing else but simply repeating their mantra." No matter how we are going about, if it helps us to connect with that timelessness of the Tao, with that sense of presence, with the self, with God, with life, then that approach is perfectly valid. Somebody asks me whether I could explain my relationship, whether this is a relationship for life or whether I'm just going for that to have some more self-understanding and more experience. That is the first part of the question. The second part is, do you see some principal differences between existing man and woman lifestyles? I see. Okay. Well, we can never say whether it's for life. But it was clear when we met, then after some time, it became clear that we are going our way together. At that time, I still was sitting in my cave. People could come down to my underground cell and we could talk with each other through the bars. And even when we became aware that sooner or later I come out and we are going our way together, our relationship continued for 2 years through the bars until I came out, and then we left. And now 23 years later, we are still together and here 23 years now in Tiruvannamalai. So I certainly didn't decide to do so simply because I thought, okay, let me make that experience and then sort of drop Sudha out of my life and continue. I cannot more honestly say I'm going to do a thing now for my whole life, for the rest of my life, because in a way, the directions come spontaneous from within. But it was clear that we are going our way together and we may stay as well stay the lifelong together. Who knows? That sometimes we may have one or the other or both ideas that we want to explore other directions. I don't know, but it seems that we are going the way together, continuing the way together. Funny question. Now the second part, are there principal differences in the lifestyles of men or women? I wouldn't say in the lifestyles, because the lifestyles from one person to another can be very, very different. But there are principal differences in how women or men approaching the whole life, the life situations. Now, in the modern times, they try to create a lot of confusion that the youngsters, the poor kids, that they are not more sure whether they are boys or girls. Calling it progress, but creating just confusion. I mean, the cells in a woman, I think 98% of the cells, they are female. They are slightly different than the cells in a man. And so the whole nervous system is different. And accordingly, there is a different way of responding to stimuli. What is totally wrong, that there was always that difference in value. And then the women rights people, they wanted to become equal, and instead of really wanted to be equal as women, they started to imitate men. It doesn't mean men should have certain professions and women should have other professions. Can very well both sexes do the same profession. But emotionally, it simply functions slightly different. But you, as a being, you are prior to that. This is a temporary story. As long as you are appearing in a human body, you are more female or more male. But in your being, you are male and female. You are neither male nor female. You are beyond that, you are prior to that, you are both of that and more than that. Learn to come back to yourself. You are complete in yourself. And then on this level, as a human appearance, you can play your role as a man or as a woman. What's the big difficulty to do so. Knowing that certain ways of functioning, they are simply neurologically different, which makes emotional differences. So what? You are prior to emotions. And whether you are appearing in the body of a woman or in the body of a man, you have exactly the same possibility to bring your attention back to that which is prior to that. That there should be equality, that is perfectly right. It's not that one or the other is worth more. But that doesn't mean we should now confuse women with men, men with women. We can accept equally valuable. A man is functioning like a man and a woman is functioning like a woman. Their being is prior to that. But their manifestation is totally worth the same. We have to get rid of those differences in giving valor, but otherwise we can very well let women be women and men be men. It's a role that we are playing temporarily. Nothing wrong playing that role. I'm appearing in a male form, and so my responses on this level in this theater will be that of a male. So what? It is like this. What does it matter? If I had a female body, I guess my way of functioning with people would be slightly different. I could still do the same thing that I'm doing now. You are prior to that. Everything is a momentary appearance. If we don't get stuck with our identification on that level, then we can play that role. What's the big deal? Without making a big story out of it. Knowing, after all, it's temporary. You are complete in yourself. The male, the female aspects come out of yourself. And you are beyond that. I don't know whether this is what you have expected to hear, but let me drop the subject. And I'm asking you, my friends, is there somebody who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hi, Werner.
Hello, Nava.
Hi. I would like to go back to what you were speaking about at the beginning.
You're welcome.
It's okay. It's something that I have asked myself all along. When I started to practice, I learned one way of practicing, and that's what I did. And as I go along, I'm introduced to more things. I don't put aside the old things that I've learned, but I introduce new things as well.
Yes.
And okay, and both in my life and in my meditation.
Right.
Okay, and when I sit down to meditate, I usually don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I sit down, I do my breathing, and then the direction is not, I don't determine ahead of time what the direction will be.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you would call that being scattered and that I should focus more on one thing, or if that can work as well.
Well, you say you start with the breathing, right? And then you have different ways how it can develop. I would just maybe whatever comes out of it, that you still connect it with the breathing. Is
Not
that possible?
always. I don't always stay with the breathing.
Yeah,
If I lose focus, I usually come back to the breathing,
yeah.
but that's not what I may do afterwards. Sometimes it won't be that at all.
Mhm. But you feel it's fine, it's all right what you are doing? Or do you have always doubts whether it's all right or not?
There's always doubts. There's always doubts, but no, it seems to me a good way to go. For example, since I was in India, I'm much more learning about and meditating with Advaita. I didn't do that before.
Yeah.
But it's also in addition to, and sometimes it'll be that, sometimes it'll be something else.
Mhm. You can have different kinds of practice. Just try to find that something that binds it together. And somehow you do that by starting out simply consciously breathing.
Okay.
And you can go on like this in your practice, that it develops sometimes rather this direction, sometimes rather that direction, but keep also something that is helpful and natural that you can do when you are not officially practicing. That when you are going through your day-to-day life, that you have the possibility, when you become aware how the attention is scattered all over, to do one simple thing that helps you to just come back home. And that, since you are starting out your meditation, breathing consciously, maybe that's the most natural and easiest way to go about it. That when you are not practicing, that you keep that as the main help, that when you become aware, the mind is all over, but you lose the touch with the presence, that you just learn to more and more breathe consciously and relax.
That's the one thing I don't usually go back to is the breathing. Interesting. No, I often will go back to the Brahma Vihara. That seems to really help me when I get scattered or when I get judgmental and critical of myself or someone else. That's often the best thing for me to go to.
Yeah.
And yet that's not always a part of my meditation.
Yeah, I see. Okay, if that works, then that works. And that's not the part of your meditation usually.
It was for quite a long time and now it's not. So are you saying that it would be more helpful if it was part of the meditation, what I do outside of meditation?
If they are sort of connected, it's helpful. Maybe you can do what you are doing when you are not meditating, and still try to connect it with the breath. Consciously breathe and do that in spite of that, what you are doing. You said the Brahma Vihara. What do you exactly mean with that?
Usually, trying to think of the English. Compassion is the one that I do the best with.
Yeah, right.
When I get critical, compassion seems to work well for me.
Sure, that's good. When you are getting critical, then remember compassion. But we are not simply by being critical distracted, that we just may be restless and distracted all over the place. And then that also is helping, that you come back to compassion. I see.
Okay.
But
No, I like the idea of, yeah.
Try to combine it with the breath.
Okay.
As you are starting out your meditation, just breathing consciously, that's something obviously basic. And from there, it goes in different directions. That's fine. But then keep that as a base that you are can connect to anything you want. It's very powerful.
Okay, that's good.
Shall
Thank
we
you.
leave it there?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Yeah.
Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome. Whoever has written the message, you're welcome too. Nobody wants to come in? Okay. First, I said it's better not to go. One day I'm doing this, one day I'm doing that. I meant that more in the sense of I try a bit something new. Then I think, no, maybe in the beginning it feels fine, and then it's becoming again commonplace. Doesn't give the necessary kick anymore. And then I try again a new thing. In the beginning, it feels new and gives me the feeling, oh, something is happening, and then it becomes again commonplace, and I drop it, and then I try again something new. And that is not maybe okay in the beginning to figure a bit out what is actually natural for you. Now, what Nava has been telling is that she just has different ways that she keeps. And sometimes it's more leaning that side, sometimes it's more leaning that side. That is possible. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good if we have some base that in a way connects with everything. And consciously breathing, that is a very simple way of connecting to so basically anything else that we are doing.
Hari Om, Werner.
Hello, Maria. Just a second.
Hello.
Oh. Yes, hello.
Hi. My question is about cleaning.
Cleaning.
Cleaning, because I've been doing my spring cleaning and I finally got the energy. Usually I do it earlier on, but this year the winter was, I mean, it felt like long winter, very long winter and very little spring. And I felt very strong, the energy when the sun started coming strong.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, it's time for cleaning.
Yeah.
And decluttering the house. It feels more and more, the more I do it, the more I feel the connection between what happens inside and what happens outside.
Yeah.
You know, that the process of meditation and the process of cleaning and decluttering, for me, go hand by hand.
Yeah.
So what I find is that, and this year has been beautiful because I found a very nice book on Feng Shui. I've read some of these things before, but this one is the best I've ever come across. She's an energy worker for sure. So she talks about the close connection between the objects and our energetic being. And I was feeling, as I was letting go many things, so much lighter, the body. Immense sense of lightness. And I got the energy to do some very fundamental changes that hadn't occurred to me before. And now it feels really good. And the only difficulty I have with it is that as I go through the process, particularly the early stages, I'm in a rush. I'm in an absolute rush. So right now I'm feeling very happy about the results, but it's like the process is so painful. Because it's as if it's again the time obsession comes up. It's like I couldn't finish. I'm just starting and I'm already thinking I've got to finish.
Yeah.
So yeah, my question to you, or if you could please comment on that. I feel I need encouragement. It's a very strong pattern in myself. The moment I have a big task coming up, there is so much anxiety at the very beginning with getting it done.
Yeah.
So the process is very stressful. Even if I know it's the right thing, even if I know at the end I will feel satisfied, even if, all those things, but it's the process, is the pressure of I've got to rush, I've got to do it quick.
Right. And of course, you are creating that pressure yourself.
Yes, I know. I wish I didn't.
It's not somebody who is pressuring you.
Yeah.
Right. So when you feel that coming, then accept, okay, there I did it again, creating all that pressure. And instead of trying to convince yourself intellectually one way or another that you should not do that, then accept that at that moment that pressure is there and simply watch what it is doing to your experience at that time. And start to relax and then go about your task you pick up, whether it's cleaning or any other task. And you remind yourself, okay, when the pressure comes, I watch it and relax. And then I am in the timelessness of the now. And then no matter what you are doing, it in itself becomes practice. And practice is not something that you have to rush to finish it because it continues anyhow. But I mean, I know perfectly what you are talking about. I've been growing up with that mood most of the time. I start something already, I want to have it finished, and it creates an endless strain unnecessarily. And we can learn to accept, okay, it will take some time, and I just go from one thing to another, and I don't care whether I'm finishing now, today or not, or tomorrow or not. I'm just doing one thing after the other and learn to turn it into practice. Learn to be in the present instead of thinking, I have to finish this, and then after that, what next? What can I do then?
Yeah.
Or I want to do this, I want to do that after. Be in the present and relax, and then this stops. And if the pressure comes out of habit, accept, okay, there I'm doing it again. See the pressure, see what it is doing, and relax. And then gradually the habit disappears and you're just playfully going about your doings, about your actions, no matter what. Whether it's the most mundane action or a more sophisticated intellectual action, it doesn't matter.
I think there is a connection between this push, which is phenomenal, really, to the belief that if I don't struggle, things won't happen. So that there is a need for struggling in order to accomplish something.
Yes. We have also grown up like this in a world that we have to, and then it's like society became faster and faster and faster, and more that idea was implanted. If you want to want to get somewhere in life, you have to struggle, 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 right? And we have to learn to do the opposite of letting go, of relaxing, of being. And if you really want to get somewhere in life, you have to learn to let go and to relax and to be.
Otherwise, it's a lot of misery.
Right. We can get rid of that idea. It's not that when we start to relax that we're becoming less efficient and incapable of doing things. Often the opposite, maybe not, but often it's the opposite, because when we are tense, then we are more prone to make funny things that instead of helping are extending the thing. If you are playful and relaxed, then it goes easy and you are as efficient as, at least, or many times more efficient than when you put yourself into strain. We have been educated like this, and we have to somehow undo that conditioning.
Yes. I mean, the interesting thing is, the good news is that I feel in the meditation now I'm more able to do that.
Yes. Yes.
I am more able to feel more the moment, more than, you know, just being in the next move, in the next part of the meditation. Or so I feel hopeful that, because usually tends to happen that what happens in the meditation somehow gets transferred to the daily routine, the what happens there. And I feel in the meditation, the movement is going deeper instead of going somewhere.
Struggle on, struggle on, struggle on. Yeah, right. And then you can bring that attitude now more and more in your daily activities also.
It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. So that's why I'm asking you for the support on this, because the family pattern is very strong, very strong. So it's, yeah. The meditation, you know, the meditation is, I'm encouraged by my teacher, in the community, by you. There is an encouragement to do that all the time. But in the mundane things, it's the family, the mother, father.
Yeah.
And I was surrounded in an environment where people were rushing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Until
when
you
it
collapse.
comes, let it come. See what it is doing. See the tensions it creates. Accept that it has happened, but then you learn to relax more and more. And then gradually it loses its power, even if it's an old habit. If we keep on looking at them and see what they are doing and relaxing, then even old habits can be changed.
Thank you so much, Werner.
You're
Always
welcome.
helpful. I always get more, much more than words. We do. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Okay, then I'm going to, there is another written question. How to struggle for feeling about like guilty in front of my child, close people. How I could do something wrong with them. Just be yourself. Be natural. Don't torture yourself. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And if you did something of which you feel it was not helpful, and that feeling of guilt comes, then for a moment, doesn't matter, okay, the feeling comes, but then you let it go. And if it needs repairing the situation, we do it. And otherwise, okay, I'm wiser for the experience. I've learned something. Next time, I may do better. I may not make the same blunder again. Don't hold on to the feeling of guilt. If you, for example, you mentioned your children. If you feel guilty in front of your children because of something you did, maybe you can apologize. Maybe it's not necessary. But if you hold on to that guilt, then you keep on creating something negative that always flows from you to the children. And actually you keep on doing something not helpful for them. And if something happened and you feel guilty about it, then let the guilt come, let it be there, let it go, reassess the situation, and intend that in a similar situation you try to do better, and then let that guilt go. And be open with the children. And in order to be capable of being open with the children, you have to be yourself, authentic, not trying to create an image of yourself, a good image, a perfect image, and then struggle and struggle and struggle to try to reach that perfection of that image. Just relax and be natural, be yourself, be authentic yourself. And then there comes something very strong and beautiful that happens to affect the people that are close to you, your family, your children, your friends, the people who live nearby. Everybody is benefiting if you make peace with yourself. Sometimes these emotions come. Guilt may come. It comes, you see it, you see what it is doing, and you relax and let it go. It doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt. But if we hook into that thing and think, oh, I did something wrong, and keep on feeding a guilty feeling, then we are poisoning our own life, and we are radiating that tension all around. And especially children are reacting very strongly and are affected by it. So if you want to do it right for the children, be yourself. And then sometimes we are doing things better, and sometimes it's not so fortunate how we are acting or reacting. So what? It comes, it's there, you let it go. If after that you let go these tensions, then it doesn't matter. It has been there, a momentary tension, a momentary disharmony, it's gone. And then if you are at peace with yourself, you are radiating that, and the children are benefiting, your friends are benefiting, everybody who comes in contact with you is also benefiting from that. Okay. So I let that go. And I asking you, my friends, is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hi, Werner.
Hello, Andreas.
I could need some encouragement to take like daily chores and activities more serious as a way of practice. Because I really don't like a lot of my chores and try to get them done as quick as possible, get over it, and or delay them. And I'm not really practicing with it.
Yeah. I mean,
in addition to that, like, okay, let's say something.
You don't have to try to artificially start to like to do so, to mop your floor. But when you feel, when that feeling comes, okay, I have to do it, but it's an unpleasant feeling there that you push yourself into it, then maybe stop a moment and watch the feeling and see what that emotion and that physical feeling is doing. And you relax and you continue doing what you were reluctant to do, and you become aware, hey, it's not a big deal. Even if it's not your favorite favorite way of passing time, then you learn to simply do it, not keep that resistance. What makes those things so hard to do that we don't specially like is that we hold on to the resistance of not wanting to do it. And if we can learn to let that go, then still it may not be your favorite that you are having to do the house chores and whatever comes along with it. But then when there is not more a resistance, then you just playfully go about it. And there's no big deal.
Okay. And this, like, to come back to the moment in daily life. I mean, my main practice is like breathing.
Yeah.
But if I'm like in my daily life and I start to breathe, it's kind of much more, I feel like, not shallow in the way that it's not so deep. It's more like when I'm meditating, my breathing is much more, I have much more attention on the breathing, and in the daily life, it's just very superficial, the attention that comes with it.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend you that you start to try to control your breath in your daily life all the time. That would be a new great tension. But you can just bring your attention back to the breathing, and even if the breathing is shallow, then you are aware that you are breathing shallow, and actually without controlling, without making an effort, if we are aware how we are breathing, gradually it's getting deeper, even if we are busy.
Yeah, it's yeah. I meant that it's like I don't have so. I mean, when I'm meditating, yeah, all the breath gets relaxed and yeah, gets kind of deep. And in the daily life, I'm just like very superficial awareness of the breath. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not getting really like out of my mental stuff.
Right, but you can consciously redirect when you see, when sometimes you will be totally absorbed and need your intellect to function in that moment, and then you are not just turning around bull gathering, but these moments are generally not all they are not so much as we think, and certainly not all the time. And the rest of the time we do, we just go around somehow without much intensity. And when you become aware that this is happening, then you just redirect the attention to the fact that you are breathing, even if your breath is shallow. And that helps you to let go of that attachment to the mental activity. The mental activity may still continue, but it stops being so woo, 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 if at the same time you consciously breathe and relax. And the breath is automatically, without your controlling, without making an effort, if you put your attention back to the breath, even when you are busy, even when you are in a crowd, even if you are busy with a patient discussing, the breath becomes longer and deeper. Without that, you have to make an effort of controlling it.
Yeah, especially with patients in like counseling, it's very difficult to stay like centered. And I mean, because I don't see the patient so very often. I'm working in a clinic and I have to figure out what's going on here, what's the problem. And so there's a lot of mental working there. And it's really difficult to have to keep some basic awareness what's for my body or for like what's sometimes it's helpful to see what's going on here. But a lot of times I get really sucked into the the discussion stuff.
Well, start by intending to give you every now and then the impulse, relax. In the midst of that, just relax.
Okay.
And then it becomes also easier to be aware of the breath. But start just telling yourself every now and then, in the midst of that activity, in the counseling session, relax. You don't have to tell it out loud. You tell it to yourself. And you relax your legs, whether you are sitting or standing. You will see it changes the flavor of your experience. Even if there is quite an excited experience, a tense experience, a difficult experience, if you remember to tell yourself just, oh, come on, relax, relax. It changes the flavor of your experience.
Maybe sometimes it would even help to tell it.
Sometimes it would help, but you don't need to shock the people in front of you. You can also tell them to relax. That is good.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Sometimes that would help.
Sure. If you feel it's helpful, you can also tell them, and when you tell them, you yourself remind yourself, relax.
Thank you very much.
This helps. Any little hint that we just create for ourselves, that we can use in the most tense situation, if we use them again and again and again, it's amazing what kind of effect they have. They accumulate, the effect accumulates. And the simple thing like telling yourself, oh, come on, relax, relax, relax. And you do it often, it becomes stronger and stronger, how much the whole experience is affected by it and changes. You will see.
Okay, I try.
Sure, good, great. Shall we leave it at that?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
There is another message. I think anyone who wants can also read that message. I think it's for, yeah. It's not a private message from Mariam, who is in the train. And that's why she cannot connect and writes a question. She started to do a new practice and to do that 4 times a day, and sometimes it's not working because of her schedule, also in counseling. Also in counseling. But then she asks whether it's a good way to connect with, because she's doing that with the self-inquiry question. Who am I? What am I? And definitely, if that is something one feels an affinity to, it's the most powerful way of connecting. Just also add that aspect, which I just told to Andreas. When you do that, also consciously relax. Then it becomes even much stronger. But certainly that is what self-inquiry is about. The question, who am I, is not the question that we're asking and asking and asking, and eventually we get the answer. And then I can say, I am this, I am that, I know now what I am. The question doesn't have an answer. The purpose of the question is exactly that. You're asking whether it's a good way of connecting. Yes, that is the purpose of this question, to catch the attention where it is fixed, where in all our little obsessions that we are busy with, and bring it back to the source, bring it back to that which makes the experience possible. That's the point of the question. So, of course, it's a good way of connecting. All right. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Hello, Cornelia.
Hi, Werner. Good to see you.
I'm still here.
Let me see. I go here. I have some technical issues today. Yeah. Oh, what is this?
I can hear you. I can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about relationships. I didn't write any messages, but of course that is a big issue for me again. That last thing didn't work out. I had to end it pretty soon, actually. It was pretty, yeah, I don't want to go into that too much.
Okay.
But right after, and it's now 2 weeks over or something, I start again longing for my ex-husband, you know. And so my question is, and listening to Maria, for example, I would so much love to just focus on, cleaning my house, tidying up, you know, my own life, really going into that. And I know times where that is totally fulfilling for me. Yeah. For example, in India, I was in the community. I wasn't looking for anybody outside there. It was really fine. And how it comes that over and over and over again in waves, it feels as if my life is not complete without that one significant other, you know. And I also had experiences like you talked about your relationship. It just happened. It can, you know, you're not looking for it. You talk even 2 years in your cave, and then it's clear we go together. You know, I have experience like that too, and that is very natural and easy. And now again, it's like, no, my life is not complete without that one. It's not, obviously, it's not that one person. It only meets the concept of one significant other at my side. You know, it is specifically growing old or whatever concepts I have in my mind about this. That is my question. So why am I over and over again think and believe, and I can question that, no doubt, but very, very deep inside, it feels not complete. Like this right now. I mean, yeah. So what do you think?
Actually, it's not because the person is not there, because there is not another person. Deep down, unconsciously, subconsciously, you are complete. It is natural. You are complete in yourself. Your life, your experience is complete. But then we are not aware of what we are, and we have so identified with that role we are playing, and there is a lot of stuff that we can criticize and not like, and naturally we want to come back to our natural state where we are at ease, at peace, joyously alive, because we know we are complete. And then we are projecting that outside and think, if that and that would be there, then I would be more complete. But it doesn't come from there. I'm not saying you should not. I'm not saying you should not have a friend, a companion who is living the life with you. But it's not that which will give you that sense of completion that you are longing for. It will keep you busy, sometimes happy and sometimes struggling. And then you can have less time of feeling incomplete. But it's not somebody who will make you complete. It's not a circumstance will give you that sense of completion. It's that longing to come back to our natural state, that longing because we know deep down, as long as I'm not experiencing that because I have forgotten that, then I try to make my experience complete by adjusting the situation, and it never really works. For moments, it seems, but it's gone quickly.
But Werner, in my marriage, it just felt right.
Yeah.
It just felt right. It was for years. It felt right. This is how I want to live. This is like arrived, and that's why it was such a catastrophe. All of a sudden, it was over. I didn't see it coming. Boom, it was over. And
Yeah.
in that time, I didn't feel incomplete. I felt, yeah, it's fine, And yes, of course, I did meditation and everything, and yeah, it's just the way of living doesn't feel right to me like this. That's maybe more. Yeah, and of course you're right. It can also happen that I live with somebody and it feels the same way, not right or incomplete, But I had that experience for quite a while, and that is why I'm looking at this and think, yeah.
Right.
So you mean just living one day at a time and doing what you tell us each week again.
And you can be open that your life circumstances change, but don't obsess about it, because there you desperately try to bring something about, and this is not a good starting point that something nice can grow out of it. But you can.
I totally agree. But I totally agree,
Yeah.
Why am I doing that over and over again? And I know there are times when I'm just with myself or with the tree or whatever is around me. I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
And then boom, it comes. No, it has to be like this.
Yeah. And our mind is also a tricky thing. Now, when you feel that is missing, then you're looking back what was there. And when we have the desire to see something in a favorable light, then it has the tendency to become more glorious. When we have the desire, when we remember something, to see it in an unfavorable light, then things becoming worse and worse and worse and worse in the memory. And then we see, oh, it was so nice but forgetting all the other moments when it was not so nice.
Mm,
Anyhow, I
okay.
believe that you had a good time, but you cannot force it about that it comes again. Know that you are self-fulfilled, that you are complete in yourself, that you don't need anyone. And then still you can be open that in the game of this world, somebody comes along and shares your life, and then it may happen. But if you think it must be in order to be happy, then actually you make yourself unhappy.
I know.
Of course you know.
I'd be much more happy tidying up my house and doing this and focus on that, and that's it, for today. Okay, I try. I practice. Everything you told everybody today, was for me, of course. Yeah. Okay.
I wish you well with it.
Thank you.
Hariom.
Hariom. Hariom.
Hariom. Yes. Somebody asks, they recognize that each of us is basically complete. But what about the need for hugs, for kisses, for touches, hormonal stories? And sometimes it's like challenges to stay calm and alone. Yes, it's again going in the same direction, in the same chapter. Of course, as a manifestation, all those feelings are there. And it's nothing wrong if we can have them. Can be open that this is there. It's nice if they are there, but don't make your well-being dependent on it. You don't have to push those things away and think they should not be there because they disturb me. Okay, those thoughts, those desires are there, but at the same time, have a good look at yourself and see what happens. You meet somebody you like, you haven't seen, and you are very happy to see the person, and you have a big hug. What is happening there? For a moment, you just let go. For a moment, there are no thoughts, there are no ideas. Something should be different. I need something. It's just for a moment, you let go. And then after that, in the mind, that imprints the idea, it's that hug that gives me that momentary respite. But it's indirectly the hug, because the hug is desired, the hug is welcome. For a moment, I let go. You don't have to push away these desires, but don't make your well-being dependent on it, whether it's manifesting or whether it's not manifesting. Learn to observe that even when things are manifesting and you feel happy, that happiness is not coming from the situation. Simply the situation is to your liking, and in that not resisting the situation, the present experience, we automatically relax. we don't torture our mind at that moment. It should be like this, it should be like that, I should have this, I should have that. But we just let go for some time. Don't think it should be different, not having any resistance to what is. And in that non-resisting state, in that relaxed state, that natural sense of joyousness, of feeling happy comes to the surface. It's not coming from the outside. You can play your role, live your life, fulfill your desires, but observe and become more and more aware. All the happiness that I'm getting in nice circumstances, actually, the circumstances, they just set up the stage that I'm capable of letting go, and there it bubbles up. It comes out of my own self, that sense of happiness that I'm experiencing. The more you become aware of that, the less these kind of desires are a problem. They are there. Sometimes they are getting fulfilled. Sometimes they are not getting fulfilled, but you become more and more aware. I am the source of my happiness. And then, of course, the hormonal thing is quite a strong one. It has driven humanity crazy throughout the ages. But even with that, if we really observe, it's mainly the fantasies that keep people running and running and running. It's all the feelings, all the energies that are building up by thinking of it. That gives so much, seems to give so much energy, more than the acts that come out of it themselves. So even that is something, although it's a strong one, it's still, because it's there, the drive is there, we want to have it fulfilled. And when finally the moment comes there, we are not struggling, we are not thinking it should be different, and there we let go, and in that letting go, there is happiness. Why? Because happiness is natural. If we don't struggle against the fact of what we are experiencing, we can learn to let go and tap into that current of happiness all the time, no matter what is happening. And then we play our role, let the life go on day by day, and these little desires that come, sometimes they are fulfilled, sometimes they are not fulfilled, and it matters less and less. Okay, I let that go again, and I'm asking, is there any one of you who would like to come in? You're welcome to come. I see Ben.
Leo.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Werner. Hello, everyone. I am jumping on the train of relationship questions. So, I've recently, I guess, gone through some experiences with relationships, and it's somehow made me aware of the kind of relationship that I would like to have if I am to have one. And I think part of this clarification is making me more aware of which kind of relationship I should not have in order to have what I would want.
Yes.
And I think there's some kind of energy equation into that, where, you know, if I kind of waste my energy in some things that is actually not what I want, then I'm not building up the energy for something else. I don't know if this makes sense, and I don't know if I have a clear question, but it's just my recent process, and therefore I'm trying to bring awareness if there's some kind of hormones kind of calling me into some kind of interaction, but it's not aligned with kind of the vision I would like to have as far as the relationship. I'm trying to place awareness into that, and I'm just wondering how strict to be with that, or how to just be open to what is.
Well, the two are not really so contradictory as they appear to be. You can very well basically be open to what is, but then within the game, within the theater, with the role that we are playing, you can also have your ideas, your priorities, that this is preferable than that. And now, as you describe it, you are quite clear for the moment what kind of relationship you looking for would be acceptable. And if you are clear about that, then if you approach somebody, if somebody approaches you, then it's good to be clear about it. And then it's clarifying the situation. And if the other person has a totally different relationship in mind, then it's better to be clear about it and not hang on to the possibility for the moment there can be another relationship, because you know it won't stay, and it may hurt because I have a certain idea, and maybe somebody comes along who fits in that idea, and your two ideas fit together. But so it's not an opposite. You just be open to what is. You can send your intent in the current and be open for that. But then at the same time, you have again to be just open to what is and see whether what life brings along.
Yeah, this makes sense. And I think I guess the thing I feel I need to be careful for is kind of this drive to feel some incompleteness feeling can take me to maybe older pattern of just engaging in some relationship that is not actually what I want. And that would be what drives that, is this kind of feeling of incompleteness or the need of some kind of relationship, even if it's not the one I would actually want.
Yes, and there you are. It's better that you are clear with yourself and with the other person. And then you can, for both of you, avoid a lot of unnecessary pain, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
With clarity.
Cool.
And if we are clear and still act against our inner clarity, then we have to take in our stride that we have to experience the sweet and the bitter fruits that we are bringing in motion.
Great. Message heard.
Good, very good. Wish you well.
Thank you, Werner. Hari Om.
Well. Hari Om. Hari Om.
May I briefly add something to this point?
Yeah, just a moment. I would like to
somebody.
say. Okay. All is fine.
Yeah.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Actually, that last piece was very good to hear also, because that is exactly my experience that I had, and that was for the first time in my life. I met this man that I talked about here in Satsang as well, a couple of months ago now, and just did some steps to learn about each other, yeah, but not going totally and fully immediately.
Mhm.
And then I learned some things that I thought, not I thought, it was clear. I'm, for example, I don't tolerate violence in my life anymore. And this was not physical, but verbally. And at that point, when I noticed it was there and he couldn't help him doing this, you know, I ended it in
Yeah.
very lovingly.
Yeah.
And that was new to me. That was new to me because there were all these other parts, you know, and they were very attractive. And I also kind of, something in me seems to be attracted by this kind of harsh or whatever. Yeah, but it was very violent. And that is an interesting experience for me, that after 6 weeks, I noticed that and say, no, with this, I'm not going to live, and still longing for that closeness because, yeah, I want to be in a relationship, and he was interested. So that would have been fine, you know.
If.
Yeah. Yeah, if only. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that feels very good actually, because there was also, and sometimes I think, oh, maybe only for that relationship was in my life, because I put this boundary and I stick to it and I don't make contact at all anymore. And yeah, so yeah, very good piece here, you know, to find out and to see and be very clear with what I don't want, and then make possible that the thing that is meant for me comes in my life.
Right. Exactly. And the clearer you are, then the more you can present a clear picture and avoid a lot of troubles in that way.
Yeah. So thank you, Ben, for bringing this piece up here.
Good.
Thank you.
Very
Ariom.
good. All right. If somebody wants, we have a little more time we can spend. Is there anyone who would just now would like for a short question? All right. So we have talked today much about how to deal with the things on this level, on this manifestation. And it's good to learn to deal on with that level in such a way that we feel it's right. Because if we are creating tension and we feel we are not acting right, then our attention is always locked on that level. But the more we are capable of relaxing, more we are becoming aware there is that aspect of us that is not affected by anything. In a way, eagerly observing, eagerly experiencing, making the experience possible, at the same time unattached, unconcerned. That is our home. The more we are capable of bringing the attention back to that, the more we can go about our daily life, about this story, about this movie, about this theater, playfully, joyously, without taking all the details so serious. I wish you all well. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.